really big warm welcome to Being Open to Wisdom. So this, as you well know, is a program created, Dickin Bettinger and I have created this in collaboration together for you. I have worked with Dickin. I've been lucky enough to work with him for just over 2 years now. And as you probably already know, he's a wonderful teacher, has taught me so much. And I always take every opportunity I can to share a bit of his wisdom with you. So this is definitely one of those courses where if you sit with a notepad and pen, you're going to find it really difficult to kind of get anything out of this course. So what I really, really want to encourage you to do is to sit back, put the pad and the pen down, and just, honestly, if you try and follow along with what Dickin's saying, you're going to find yourself frustrated. So sit back, just let it play. You might want to listen to it twice. You might want to listen to it more than once. But just let it wash over you. Just take on board what we're pointing to, what we're sharing with you. And then whatever comes up in you is yours. Remember, you're not listening to the words. You'll never be able to understand the words. You're listening for a feeling. So if when you listen, you feel touched. When you listen, you feel better at the end of it. If you listen and you feel an openness or a neutrality or a spaciousness, that's what we're looking for. And through that space, insight comes. Through that space, your wisdom speaks and reveals to you what there is for you to see. And that's what I'd love you to bring to our monthly Q&A call. That's what I'd love to see you sharing in the Facebook group and letting me know what you're hearing as you go through the modules every Monday in this course together. So sit back, enjoy. We're going to kick off right now. So there are 4 topics that we're going to cover, Dickin and I, as we go through these videos for you. And the first thing that we wanted to start with, and it kind of frames the whole of it's going to be useful for everything we talk about going forwards, to set the foundations, if you like. But one of the really key things that we wanted to kick off with was the difference between information-based learning and wisdom-based learning, insight, right? So there's a distinction there between those two. And we're so trained and conditioned to try and process information, gather information, try and process information, that's kind of the only way we know how to learn. That's how we're taught to learn. It's not the only way we know how to learn. It's the way we're taught how to learn. That's the difference as well. And so I know when many people come to programs like this, or they're listening to teachers in this understanding, there's a trying to remember what people are saying so that I can get it, so that I can understand it, so that I can process it, so that I can see something new and different. And Dickin sees a lot about this, and so I think it's a great place for us to start. Like, what do you see, Dickin, about why this is important, really, to start with? Like, why are we kicking off with this in your mind?
Well, with the things that have to do with the heart, love, wisdom, understanding, they're not as tangible as facts. Like, you can read all the books you want on love, and it doesn't necessarily make you a better lover.
Yeah.
Right? You can read all the books you want on how to ride a bicycle, but it doesn't help you ride the bicycle. So when it comes to things that are intangible, our intellect is pretty hopeless and helpless. The intellect is good at getting a grasp on, which basically means remembering information about things that are visible, solid in the world. I can learn a lot of information about trees and birds and people. God knows I heard enough facts about psychology when I studied psychology. But none of that helps us discover what lies beyond the intellect, beyond form. So I've been intrigued with the teachings of Sydney Banks and the three principles because they say that our essence, our being, we're human beings, our being is formless. It's energy, it's dynamic, it's alive, it's what lives us, but it's formless. It's beyond what can be conceived because it's infinite.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn about something that's ordinary, present, always present, the energy that's living us, the aliveness that animates us, if you want to learn about a love that's not conditional, not sourced from the intellect. Oh, now this is juicy. This is what I've gotten so excited about over the years, is that we can gain insight into the fact that we are beings, that we have essence, that we have a soul, that we are being lived by a formless energy that's incredibly intelligent. Now, the way we were taught to learn, I loved how you said it, is how we were taught to learn is you go to school, you sit in a classroom, the teacher is the expert, the teacher is presenting information, tons of information, and you better write fast. Oh my God, my hand used to cramp up. You better write fast down all these ideas and facts because you're going to have to commit them to memory, because on the test, you're going to be asked about these facts. And the best students in the room are the people who can memorize the best and regurgitate all that information. Now, I don't want to make light of that. There's nothing wrong with information learning. I love being able to have access to a lot of the information I've learned. Yeah. Right? I think it's cool. I like doing crossword puzzles where they ask you to remember what you've learned. And it's
the amount of floristry YouTube videos I've been watching recently about how to plant gardens and things.
How to prune roses.
Yeah, exactly.
Prune roses. All kinds of cool information.
Yeah.
But when it comes to love and understanding, when it comes to this topic that you and I are talking about the intelligence that is the source of life, oh my God, our intellect can remember facts, but it can't remember or know what lies beyond itself, what lies beyond the intellect. And a huge part of Sid Banks' teaching was, if you really want to understand what love is, what peace is, what happiness is, if you really want to understand the essence of human beings, our capacity for new thinking, creativity, inspiration, motivation, aspiration, you have to understand what it means to go beyond the intellect, beyond our thinking, to let go of basically everything we think and believe and see what's there. Find out for ourselves. Now, one metaphor that is used for that I found very ordinary, down to earth, that we can all relate to, is listening. Sid used this metaphor a lot. If we're thinking about something, we're not listening. In order to listen to you, Nick, I have to temporarily just stop thinking about things. And as soon as I stop thinking about things, listening is another word for being fully present. And can't you tell when you're with somebody the instant they're not listening to you?
Yeah.
It's really easy. They start thinking and they leave the present, and they're no longer in the moment, no longer awake and alive. People who are good listeners have insights all the time. What are insights? They're just new thoughts that pop into our mind. It's not stored information, it's a new thought popping into our mind. Even deeper when we see it, true listening takes us to what Sid called within, which is the formless dimension of ourselves, our being. And we're just being, we're a presence, we're open. And in that space of just being ourselves, not caught up in our concepts and ideas and beliefs, that open, receptive being, something new and fresh can be created.
See, what comes to mind when you're talking there is we walk around in the world. I know people watching this video, all of us, right? We walk around in the world trying to fix things in the form, right? So we like, yeah, but that's lovely. But what about my sister who really annoys me? Yeah, that's great, but I've got a job interview next week, and I'm just thinking about that all the time, like how I'm going to do well on that. I've got a challenge with one of my kids, like how am I going to fix that? And from that place, going and looking through YouTube videos or trying to learn how to manage how to parent your kids better, or how to to build rapport with your interviewer, or we think that I have a problem in the form, I need a solution in the form, right? People don't even know what that word means, form, but we're talking about, it's like the world of things and tangible stuff, right? When it's more than that, the world of form, it's the world of things and thoughts and feelings and stuff and things you can touch, and versus the formless that has no, is completely intangible, is untouchable, is indescribable. And before I bumped into this understanding, then all there was, it felt like to me, and my understanding was problems in the form, solution in the form. Problem in the form, go find some information, learn some information, apply some information, do it in the right steps. Solution in the form, or not solution in the form. And when you were talking, what came to me is like, why would we look anywhere else, was what was coming to me. And it's like, for me, a big turning point was seeing that pretty much everything I sought actually lay in the formless, not the form. And if I'm stuck, if I'm feel like I'm up against a problem in life, if I feel like there's something I want to change or something, to know where to look, to know that stepping into the formless and from that space comes fresh inspiration, previously unthought of thought, common sense, and a way to move forward, dissolving of problems, falling into a feeling of love, and suddenly the problem's just not there anymore, or a completely different way of responding to my child, falling back into that space and just being connected to an interviewer, right? That there's good reason to look into this world of wisdom and wisdom-based learning, and this whole unlimited potential. There's like a huge world that I'd never ever considered before, and that's the wisdom that we're looking at in this course. That's when to me, the difference between information-based learning, insight-based learning is, information-based learning is going and gathering more facts, right? Gathering more facts and coming up with a very limited range of answers, and then using my tiny mind of all the best things I've done in the past to try and choose which is the best one of those options going forward, versus it's that difference. I know I've often used this metaphor, but like being on a laptop and using the files on the hard drive of the laptop versus connecting to the internet.
Yeah.
And the
I was just
internet.
thinking about
Yeah, it's like the most responsive, vastest range of unknowns sit in the internet. And that's why we're exploring it in this course, because like you might not, I just wanted to highlight that because people might not see the relevance of why this way. It's to me, like, that's the essence of life, is like where all answers lie. It's where people are looking for, you were saying before, like those feel so intangible, like the love and the essence of life. But it's also like in a really practical way. If you're looking for, how to deal with your kids and how to come across at an interview and whatever the other problem was that I had created there, it's like, well, what you're looking for is connection. What you're looking for is love. What you're looking for is presence. And that's what you're pointing to, right? That is the essence of life. That is all over on the internet, on that side of the equation. Whatever it is you think you're looking for in the world of form, behind that is something formless that we're all seeking. We're all not seeking, we're all drawn to, because it's our essence.
Well, a good example was that before I came across the principles, when I didn't know something, I would think a lot about it, and I would research and study in Google, and I got all kinds of cool information. Like, for example, I wanted to become a better listener. We've been talking about listening. So I took courses in listening, and I read books on listening. And I would come up to my teenage daughter, and I had just finished reading a book on reflective listening, active listening. And she said, "Dad, I'm really upset with Ben," her brother. And I've got this. I've read this.
Brilliant. I know how to tackle this one.
Sit up. I told you how to listen. You sit up, you look in the eyes, and you repeat what she's feeling. So I said, "Oh, sweetie, you're really angry at Ben." And right away she reacts. She goes, "I just told you that." What, can't you hear? I said, "Oh, I hear now you're really angry. And now you're even angry at me." "Yeah, I'm angry at you." And I reflected that back. Oh my God, I went down the tube so fast. And she goes, almost immediately, she goes, "Okay, Dad, what book did you read now?" Because she can tell the difference between when you're with someone and they're trying to remember what to do and how to be, and when you're just really with somebody. So here I am, a psychologist for 10 years, and I still am falling into this, looking into my brain, my computer mind, my storage, the information that's out there in the world. I'm looking toward the world of form for how to be a better person, a better listener, a better father, a better therapist, you name it. I go and I start hearing Sid Banks talk about when we really see thought, it brings us back to the now, which is basically where we're disengaged temporarily from the intellect. We're not looking for answers that are stored in our mind, in our personal mind, in our brain. We're just open. And that he pointed out that the instant we're disengaged from the intellect and open, two things happen. We start to feel better, and we start to get new thinking that's, like you said, fresh and new and creative and interestingly enough, incredibly responsive to whatever's in front of us at that moment. So I go back to my teenage daughter and I, in a sense, wake up out of my personal thinking, drop into the now, have no clue what to say or do. She talks to me, I listen. It occurs to me to say, and I said, she doesn't get uncomfortable. She doesn't get annoyed. She doesn't say, what book are you doing? And all of a sudden we have this beautiful, beautiful talk without that misunderstanding, without that complication, without that tension. And it just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
That's all you and I are doing now, is if I'm thinking about what I'm going to say or what you're going to say, there's no room for something new. Wisdom loves space.
Yeah.
It's all crowded. Minds are all crowded up with our personal thinking. There's no space for a new thought to be born.
For me, I think as well, it was so helpful. I heard you, I don't know who this said this to you, but I remember you sharing when you heard it, and it really impacted me. And I don't know if it was George or Sid that said to you, you know, Dickon, you do know that every thought is a lie. Like nothing you think is true. And if, like, when I saw that, it really landed, because it was with one sentence, it swept aside the whole library. It's like it took the whole library of books and went and knocked them all on the floor. No point looking there, like that, right? It's like it's just stories upon stories upon stories. And I'd seen that illusory nature of thought in the fact that I can think one thing, I can think, oh, I love this weather. And then without the weather changing 3 seconds later, I can say, no, this is weather, it's terrible. And I saw that I could see the opposite 3 seconds later of anything that I thought, pretty much. So I had started to get a sense of the fact that my thinking was not to be relied on, that it couldn't be trusted, that it wasn't something I thought was true today, just wouldn't look true tomorrow.
It can't be trusted for the affairs of the heart. It can be trusted in terms of information and information processing. The intellect's a great thing. Thank God we can have concepts. Without concepts, there would be no language. I watch how excited my little 3-year-old grandson is of learning words and saying words and being able to talk about tomorrow and yesterday and what he did and what he's doing and what he wants. And that's what Sid would call wise use of the intellect.
But so in the affairs of the, and when you're saying affairs of the heart, like that's when the library's no use at all.
That's when any concept is a gross limitation. I can have all the most beautiful concepts in the world in my head about love. And if I'm wedded to those concepts or caught up in those concepts while I'm with my wife, it's just not going to work out very well.
Yeah. But
every concept is a distortion in the sense that it's a limitation. It's every concept has an opposite. It gets complicated and confusing. And so we can use our intellect, our computer, wisely. It's a tool. We can use it. Thank God. I love thinking about things and concepts and ideas and being able to plan tomorrow and my trip to come over to England or Spain or something. It's like, how cool.
Yeah.
But then, as Sid pointed out, we can use our intellect because it's a tool. You can use any tool unwisely. So the instant we start using the tool of thought unwisely, there's tension, stress, or upset.
But I was
So
just going to say,
if I'm confused about something I want to do or say, that confusion is an indication that I'm now misusing that intellect unwisely. And if I drop that, now what happens is I don't avoid dealing with something or avoid dealing with a problem. The opposite happens. I'm way better capable of responding to difficulty, responding to my kids and who are upset, responding to. So if your kids came up to you and said, oh, I have this huge problem, you wouldn't probably say, well, here's a good strategy. Think about your problem so much that you get all stressed out and you get all confused and it gets very complicated. There you go. Go away now and do that. You'd say, oh, sweetie, don't worry. When your head clears, something will occur to you.
Yeah, sleep on it. Let's have a look at it
Sleep
again
on
tomorrow.
Why don't you just take a little break and then we can take another look at this? Or it's just common sense, isn't it? So I had to learn like you that when I let it all go, I'm not losing anything of value. I'm losing tension, stress, or upset. And in its place is not knowing clarity. And into not knowing clarity comes a nice feeling and new thinking.
So, and that's so relevant to being in this conversation, because what you're saying that comes to mind is that people are listening and like having that feeling of tightness and thinking about it more. And how do I get this? How do I get this? Like, I want to get what Dickens saying, but I can't understand it. So I'm going to try and really think about it, because everything he's saying feels so like I feel confused. I feel conflicted. I'm getting frustrated. And you're right, with our kids, we'd say, look, put the homework down and come back to it tomorrow, right? Like, we all know that. We've all seen that. And yet people just think they need to think more about what we're talking about today. And the invitation that we're, I guess, throwing out for this, this course we're doing together is that actually every time when you're listening and you're feeling like that, that's just your wake-up call. It's your invitation to set the whole thing down, because insight comes through space. Like, as soon as it's feeling complicated, as soon as it's feeling like there's theories or practices or got to remember or processing, as soon as you're thinking about what we're saying, then that's just an opportunity. The feeling gets tight. And that's your invitation to put the whole thing down. And, we talked about this when I came to see you, but one of the most impactful quotes I ever read was Linda Queering sharing her experience talking with Sid Banks, and her saying to him, look, Sid, we don't understand you when you're going on about the allness and the isness and the oneness and the thisness and, the allness of everything. And Sid looked at her and said, well, then why don't you just stop trying? Yeah. Oh my God, that's so helpful to me, because I get caught up in a loop of trying to understand. And that quote, that sentiment, the truth in that, like what that points to is everything we've just been talking about, which is there's no point trying, because it doesn't, just your soul needs to listen, not your head. Right? Insight comes, to me, it feels like insight comes up and reveals itself to you. It doesn't come from your head learning something.
Thinking that we do, and then there's thinking that pops in when we're not thinking about things.
Yes,
and the essence of creativity or something new and fresh is that creativity only happens via pop-up thinking. It doesn't happen while we're thinking about things. So it's just common sense. When they ask 600 business CEOs, when do you get your best thinking? Top 3 answers, in the car, in the shower, and on vacation.
Yeah.
And what happens in those moments is people's minds are open, free, and clear, and then they get the ahas. Oh, I could do this. Oh, this makes sense. The essence of problem solving is think about your problem, use your conceptual mind, play around with concepts, but then always, if you want to find a new and fresh answer, we have to let go of our intellect completely and see what pops up as new thinking. That's called brainstorming. Processing. And you get the best of both worlds. You get the best of your intellect pulling together some helpful information, but then the answers always come from brainstorming. They come new and fresh. So